For so long, the idea was to segregate land uses and segregate races and just divide things up into their own little pods. And no matter what practically was accomplished by the plan was all about connecting. The Plan of Nashville was intended to be a 50-year plan for the central city and then ultimately the first ring neighborhoods around the central city.
When I think about the Plan of Nashville, I don't think of it as a plan, a plan like a drawing. I think it is more of an idea, a force.
When I first started working for the planning department, the Plan of Nashville was one of those first books that was like on the desk. Get acquainted with this.
It's a great document that memorializes a point in time that we were thinking about what the future of Nashville should be and trying to have a single source that we could refer to.
It was definitely purpose-driven because we're talking about creating the vision for how this city would evolve in 50 years.
I think it's the greatest goddamn plan ever done since the Plan of Chicago.
The catalyst event that brought people together was the proposal for the Franklin Street Corridor.
The Franklin Street Corridor.
The Franklin Street Corridor.
All this came out of the Franklin Corridor and what a group of urbanists, urban design advocates, felt was a huge mistake, which was to run a highway connecting two interstates through the area that seemed to have the most raw potential of downtown, which was Sobro.
The Franklin Corridor was this horrible project. It was going to cut the city in half. And you would end up with something that would be just a place for cars and not a place for people.
That galvanized people to come together.
The idea was to, number one, block the Franklin Corridor, but create a positive vision for what could happen.
And so this diverse group of community activists, planners, architects, formed this tight-knit group and said, this is not a good design. We can do better. We can create something that will actually make this city better.
Obviously, we were fighting the Franklin Corridor, but there were other development projects that we discussed in the forum, some of which were like, hey, this is a step in the right direction, and some of which were, what are they thinking kind of stuff.
And so that core group was able to change the design through meetings. They started the Urban Design Forum. There were classes. And through that core group of people, the Nashville Civic Design Center was born.
But we felt that it was important to have a broad context rather than to fight individual battles or support individual initiatives. So we needed a big book.
The Plan of Nashville was inspired by the Plan of Chicago,
which Daniel Burnham had done a century beforehand and was very ambitious and very influential, particularly in terms of major land uses and public civic spaces that were planned.
But here's a key distinction. The Plan of Chicago was top-down planning. Ours was the reverse of that, grassroots. So how do we flip that around and make it a community-based vision and model?
We had, 40 or 45 different public meetings, 800 and some odd participants in that process.
There were a lot of tables, lots of maps, lots of markers, lots of flip charts, a lot of energy. It was a diverse group of people, age-wise, background. I mean, it was just Nashville, planning for Nashville.
And to not do the typical sort of public hearing like, say, a TDOT does, where they don't really listen. They tell people what they should be saying back to the TDOT people. We really wanted to listen.
When we showed up to these community meetings, we said, don't think about how much this costs. Tell us what your vision is. And you don't put a price tag on a vision.
It was like crazy. Like the people wanted it so badly. I mean, you'd have a meeting, like 200 people would show up. Gary and I and everybody else would sit there and draw with them.
And Purcell came in And he got rid of the bad planning director and brought in Rick Bernhardt, who was a good planning director.
Rick Bernhardt was very intentional about neighborhood planning, and planning at that very granular level.
He epitomized the conceptual ideas of new urbanism and civic engagement and community voice.
And so there was a real sense that, hey, we're actually doing it now. We're actually doing urban design.
The interstates, to me, were probably one of the reasons why we have trust in community. Because any neighborhood that we're in, everyone talked about the negative impact of the interstate.
First, you have to define the distinction between what interstates were supposed to do and then what they were asked to do when they were brought into the cities. Originally, they were supposed to be interstate routes that never came into the bounds of the city. They were basically bypass roads. That was the original design. But planners of cities felt that that means their whole city would be bypassed, so they brought them into the city. And that was asking interstates to do things that they were not designed to do. Limited access highways concentrate traffic, they don't disperse it.
The idea that later developed into this idea of capping the interstate, it was acknowledging, both on the east side and the west side, that the interstate bifurcates the city in a way that has caused damage and decoupled neighborhoods. The plan addressing creative ways to stitch those back together is something that I've always loved and would still love to see.
I'm just kind of pleased to see that there are cities across the country exploring ways to try to knit back some communities that were disrupted as a result of the interstate system coming into play.
In the course of the community engagement process, when we were analyzing all this feedback and ideas that we heard from the community, we realized that there needed to be some way to organize and categorize everything that we were hearing from the community. And so that's where the concept of the principles was born.
The most important spread in the plan is the principles, the 10 principles.
The principles of the Plan of Nashville.
Is the Plan of Nashville book. And the 10 principles, as they were published in the Plan of Nashville, are: respect Nashville's natural and built environment. Treat the Cumberland River as central to Nashville's identity, an asset to be treasured and enjoyed. Reestablish the streets as the principal public space of community and connectivity. Develop a convenient and efficient transportation infrastructure. Provide for a comprehensive, interconnected greenway and park system. Develop an economically viable downtown district as the heart of the region. Raise the quality of the public realm with civic structures and spaces. Integrate public art into the design of the city, its buildings, public works, and parks. Strengthen the unique identity of neighborhoods. Infuse visual order into the city by strengthening sightlines to and from civic landmarks and natural features.
You may remember this space, Christine. This is all River North, and Oracle's campus
Oracle is
planned
there,
here,
right? Yeah.
So the bridge will land on the other side of the high rise here.
Well, I remember when we did the Plan of Nashville, we thought about, because we had this bridge in, which is now going to be built, but there were a lot of people who were like, oh, no, and that'll be too expensive. And a lot of people just thought we were crazy to talk about it because, well, for one thing, because it wasn't for cars.
Right.
To me, the East Bank is very clearly the single largest success project that we can point to that the city is implementing the Plan of Nashville.
Everything that's happening in the East Bank, which of course was a big part of the Plan of Nashville, and it's really fascinating to see how that is finally, 20 years later, playing out.
Seeing it all unfold now is really exciting to say, okay, I remember when the community charged us with embracing the river.
Of all the community meetings we had, every single neighborhood talked about the Cumberland River and how we had turned our back to the river. It was an industrial riverfront historically.
In terms of street sections and green space and greenways and thinking about the street grid and a mix of uses, affordable housing, on and on and on. The principles find their way into all of those projects.
We have an opportunity to make it really, really special. Like, let's do that. Like, let's not leave anything on the table.
We're personally invested in the East Bank as an organization. It's so critical to our roots at the Plan of Nashville. So that's why we're so invested in making sure it's done right and just being a steward to help keep it going towards implementation in the future, because it's so critical to the city.
If we forget about history, how do we best plan for the future? One great thing that the Plan of Nashville did is that it really reflected on the history of Nashville to help us understand how did we get here.
It became the collective North Star for anybody who cared about how this city was going to evolve for the next 20 plus years.
This is a very optimistic document. It's something that captures the dreams and wishes of a community that was brought together at a particular point in time.
I think the fact that we're still talking about it is a surprise, because most plans, even as nice a one as that, it goes on the shelf and, okay, that was great, it was fun while it lasted kind of stuff.
We have a responsibility tied back to those 10 principles to do all of what we do the right way, and to do it in a way that is meaningful and beneficial for the community and not just for ourselves.
It happened because the people knew that something had to change.
Our charge now is just as an organization to make sure we're always talking about the principles and utilizing them and making sure that people understand that history of where they came from and what they're connected to and what they're rooted in.
I think my favorite thing about working on the Plan of Nashville was the camaraderie among the people who were working on the Plan of Nashville.
So you get a high five for that. But
Well, my editor does.